Bonjour Marcelo.
Bonjour Christophe.
Bonjour.
Aujourd'hui, nous de la chaîne YouTube Vinhos e Prazeres, visitons Beaune, France, la cave de Joseph Drouhin. Joseph est un célèbre producteur de grands vins du nord au sud de Borgonha. Déjà eu le plaisir de visiter la cave et découvrir aussi large gamme de produits. Nous sommes au moment avec le monsieur Christophe Thomas, qui va parler sur la domaine. Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour, Alberto.
Pouvez-vous nous parler un peu de l'histoire de la cave?
So it's a family winery for 4 generations. So Joseph Drouhin was the founder in 1880, and he started right where we are in the center part of Beaune. Now we have aged children because they are all between 52 and 59. This is the 4th generation. The 5th generation is coming. We've got, for instance, the biggest estate in organic biodynamic farming in Burgundy. We have 40 hectares in Chablis. We have 40 hectares in Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune, and we've got 2 hectares in Côte Chardonnay. Without speaking of Oregon, because we've got 120 hectares in Oregon, USA, as a vineyard as well. So we've got a lot of vineyards to take care of. But here in Beaune, this is the center part. This is the original part, and right now we've got a magnificent place right in the center that you visited a few years back, and it's very central. It's magnificent cellars. We've got more than an hectare of underground cellars in town. So
Wow.
I always tell people when they come over and they visit us and say, well, people can walk in the streets. They have no idea that they are actually walking on a quarter of Beaune and on our cellars. So it's something that people just don't picture that well, but it's massive how well the family Drouhin has been established in this town of Beaune.
You enter by one door and you go out by another door in another.
Absolutely, you remember.
Yeah.
And practically we don't give a tour of all the cellars because there's so many, and it's not all of them are actually quite ready to be visited because it's quite dusty sometimes. But it's surprising. It's historical. I mean, you can see some walls back into the Roman times, 2,000 years ago, and we keep wines there. It's not a museum. It's a real cellar. We age wine. We age spirits as well. We do a bit of Mar de Bourgogne. So that's very special.
You start the region of Chablis and you go to the south of Bourgogne.
Well, in terms of range, yes. In terms of range, we've got 40 hectares in Chablis, so that includes 4 Grand Cru, 8 Premier Crus, and 1 straight Chablis. So that's a massive stake in Chablis for more than 50 years. We have this estate. We've been buying it in the 19th century. Chablis was 40,000 hectares, 4,000, and in the mid-60s, Chablis was down to 500 hectares. So 500 hectares, that's nothing compared to 40,000.
Yeah. And
the Chablis was about to disappear. And in 1968, Maurice Drouhin, the 2nd generation, and the 3rd generation, Robert, decided to purchase a magnificent estate right in what was left of the vineyards. So that was very central, in the center part of Chablis. And nowadays, Chablis region is back to 5,200 hectares, which is still far from the original size of the 19th century. So that's magic. And we go back down to Macon, to Beaujolais. We produce some wines from Beaujolais, some Cru, some Beaujolais Village, some Macon. We start to look very seriously to buy some estates over there because we believe that some magic to look after there, because the soil, the vines, the styles, and the price is much more interesting these days.
Chablis is colder than the other parts of Bourgogne. It's near Champagne. It's a region more colder.
Oh, well, it's an old. I mean, France in a long time ago was quite filled with vineyards. Now what's left is quite very reduced of what was historically known in France. Now Chablis is close to Champagne. It's an hour drive from where we are, and there's very little vineyards in between. So
the greater production is in central Bourgogne.
Well, I mean, I would guess it's more Mâconnais. The Mâconnais, the Chablis are producing much more, because it's a region where we don't have many Grand Cru, many Premier Crus, and as soon as you talk about Premier Cru and Grand Cru, which is quite Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune. I mean, Chablis has Premier Cru, Grand Cru, but it's quite limited. The yields in Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune are far lower than the Mâconnais and the Chablis Strait. So the volume is mostly based in the south and in the north. When it comes to AC Bourgogne, with even villages, this is very small parts.
Yeah. And about how many bottles do you produce per year?
Roughly, we are about 3 million bottles.
For Bourgogne is big. Generally, you have little producers.
Well, yes. Well, the average size of one estate in Burgundy is 6 hectares per producer. We are 80 hectares.
Yeah.
So we are 7 times bigger.
Yes.
So you can understand that it's not. We can produce much more. I mean, a small estate produce 60, 100,000 bottles a year, depending on what they've got. Because if you've got like an estate with only Grand Cru, Premier Cru, you don't produce much. If you've got an estate of straight Chablis, straight Mâcon, 6 hectares, that can produce much more.
Yeah, of course. And what is your main market?
Actually, the biggest market for us is the French market. We are only dealing with restaurants, with liquor shops, hotels, and we don't deal with supermarkets. Supermarkets in France, it's 80% of the volume of wine. So we are not interested in this category. We are only focusing on top-end restaurants, and this is the biggest market in the world for us. Second would be USA. Number 2 would be UK, and then it could be Japan, Canada. You know, I tell you honestly what is happening right now. I mean, with the specific situation where we are all living in right now. Yeah. Joseph Drouhin sales at end of July is equal to 2018. And it was a great year. Last year was the biggest ever sales of Joseph Drouhin, but we are at 7 months done of 2020. We are equal to 2018, and we have a lot of Grand Cru to be shipped in September. So it's not going to be as bad. I mean, even in Burgundy, I hear different stories. Like some estates probably sold 1 or 2 cases in 6 months. We are lucky. We've got a great network. We've got recognition. We've got awards. We've got one of the highest quality as possible you can find. So I think people can trust, and they do. They do trust and they do buy. So it's great to see that. I mean, I was very scared when it started to get very serious about the COVID stuff, and it was March, and I was like, wow, that's going to be a very bad year. And I mean, it's amazing how the markets have been responding. And you could probably think sometimes, oh, people bought too much and they will have stock. The problem is that right now no one wants to have stock. So what they sell is and what they purchase especially, it's because they have no wine. So it means it's very positive. It's very it's very healthy situation for us, for our distributors, and it's magic.
And do you work with Mr. Al for a long time?
It's one of the oldest partner we have in the world.
Oh yeah.
We started in 1974. So I don't know what was the market in Brazil in 1974, but to be working with Mistral at that time and especially right now with Ciro and the team, I mean, it's a tremendous job they've been doing for a long time.
And you brought a lot of wines in the Encontro Mistral.
You know, it's sometimes I start in new countries like Nigeria, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know Burgundy. We would like to have like 5-6 wine." I said, "Well, that's very difficult to choose because Burgundy is 1/5 of the size of Bordeaux, and we have 14 times more appellations. They've got 50, we've got 700. So it's like to be choosing between your child. It's like this. It's Burgundy. I'm from Burgundy, so I'm probably not entirely objective. But for me, Burgundy is magic. You've got such a little surface. The region is very small, but then the amount of taste you can taste with only 2 grapes, with Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Yes, it's magic. I mean, more likely when you taste some Chardonnay, some Pinot Noir from different corners of the world, you feel like, oh, they all look the same. But here it's every meter is different, and also sometimes when people tells me, oh, I don't like Chardonnay, I say, well, you don't know Chardonnay. You don't. Come with me. I'm going to make the taste this, and if you don't like it after all, I can do it. But I think it's impossible not to find something you like in Burgundy.
And it's different from all the world because all the world makes Chardonnay, but they can't do the wines like you. I never found some. They are more sweet. They are in countries that's hotter. You generally they have a Chardonnay completely different from Burgundy.
I'll tell you something. When I was in Australia some time ago, we tasted maybe 20 wines from Drouhin and mostly Grand Cru. Around the tables, there were 14 winemakers from Margaret River in the western part of Australia. And one winemaker, he was saying, oh, here in Australia, we can do as good as your Montrachet Grand Cru. We can do the same quality and much cheaper. So, well, that's your view. I fully understand, and I fully respect what you say.
Yeah.
And so the guy that organized this said, "Do you have a wine in mind that could match Montrachet Maquis-Laguiche?" He said, "Oh, this is Art Series from Western Australia. Do you have a vintage?" "Oh yeah, well, this vintage." Okay, he go down. He comes with the bottle, side by side. We taste Montrachet and Art Series, and was a winemaker next to me, maybe 70 years old. He tasted both wine, and he looked at me. He said, "There's a fucking difference." I use this word. I shouldn't. But, like in the US, you can put a dude on my words, but this is different. This is completely much more complex, much more texture. So you can try, and you can probably get close to, but to get that level of complexity, that's somehow very, very difficult.
And the other grape, the Pinot Noir, it's one of the most difficult grape to produce. It's
the most difficult grape to produce. For the vines, it's very sensitive. It's also the most complex grape in the world.
Yeah.
And I would guess, when I look at, I've been 25 years in the business, and the success of Burgundy over the past 16 years, actually, a movie sideways started to talk globally that Pinot Noir was the best red grape in the world, and the success started to grow very rapidly, and we've seen the prices also going rapidly to the top. So now you still have some affordable wines in Burgundy, but we've got also a problem because we've got some big company like Louis Vuitton buying land. They have such money at the bank. Their main business is not wine; it's different businesses. So we cannot compete to buy land. And now for 1 hectare in Burgundy, sometimes you have to pay 50 million euros.
Wow.
So if you multiply by 3 or 4 as a real, it's for 1 hectare. 1 hectare is 5,000 bottles. It's amazing. It's out of control.
And now you are in the fields.
The premier cru des Mouches, and you see the grapes not yet harvested for the reds. You can also see they are quite small because we've got a very sunny year. It was a magnificent year, but we have a lack of water. And when you have lack of water, it comes with small berries like this. So it's a super concentrated juice, but then there's quite nothing. And they are small. They are not huge grapes as some other years. And that's what we are. So the Cru des Mouches is there all around us. What you see there is Pomard, the village here. The village, maybe you can see at the back, it's Volnay.
Yeah.
And then Meursault is just after this. So, and this is a new plantation here.
Yeah.
You've got right there. And you've got here a place where there's no vineyard yet planted. As we are in biodynamic farming, we have to leave the vineyards when you pull out the vines 7 years without planting. So for 7 years, no revenue for the premier cru here. And after 7 years, you replant and you can produce wine after the 4th vintage. So we won't produce wines in these parcels for 11 years.
Wow.
It's a long time. Well, but that's biodynamic farming. So if you believe in biodynamics terms, it makes a lot of sense in many ways. But you have to give time, and you must afford yourself to wait. We are in a world that goes very fast. You want things in the next hour. You want an answer to your email in the next minute. You want Amazon to deliver your purchases in the afternoon. Everything goes fast, but in the vineyards, everything is slow. So it's a different time space.
It's the same cru de white grape and red grape.
Actually, we used to, and this is the story of Cru des Mouches. It's quite interesting to be here, and you asked this question actually. We produced for the first time Cru des Mouches white by mistake. Cru des Mouches was only producing grain wines for centuries. And in 1928, Maurice Drouhin, the second generation, was about to pick the grapes, and we were using a bit of Chardonnay to soften the tannins of the reds. And in 1928, the Chardonnay was ready, but not the Pinot Noir. So Maurice decided to wait for the Pinot, and he harvested the white Cru des Mouches, and he was thinking to put back the juice into the red. But then when he tasted Cru des Mouches white, he said, "Wow, that's quite interesting. Let's vinificate it like we should, and see the result." And finally, when he produced the first vintage, it was 2 barrels, so that was not much produced. But then he was hosting the owner of Maxim's restaurants in Paris, in his house in Beaune, and he gave him a taste. you have to remember 1920, that was 1930, the release of the wine. 1930, we are 6 years before AOC system implementation. So you could do much more things in Burgundy. And he gave him a taste. He said, what do you think? And the owner of Maxime said, well, how many bottles did you produce? He said, well, 600 bottles. So Maxime's owner said, could you give it to me as an exclusive wine for my restaurants? So that was the first time ever we were producing white Clos des Mouches. And he was so happy that people like it. So he gave it to the Maxime's, and it was exclusive to Maxime's from 1930 to 1945.
Very interesting. Where is Beaune? Which is the direction?
Beaune is here.
We can see Beaune from here.
Oh, that's, that's 1 kilometer and a half.
And basically, Christophe, can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to cross Atlantic and plant and bring all your heritage experience of winemaking to Oregon? And what did you find there? Because there are different terroirs, and can you tell us a little bit about this?
I don't know if you remember the tasting of Paris.
Yeah.
Organized by Stephen Spurrier, the British journalist in Paris. He was putting in competition the Napa Valley American wines versus the Old World, France mainly. And for the first tasting, there was a Pinot Noir that came 10 from Oregon. And this region was completely forgotten or unknown completely. And Robert Drouhin was quite surprised to see that, and he said, well, actually, that was not a very fair treatment for the Old World, because the vintages were not the right vintages to compete with Napa. So he organized another tasting to match, really, to put more competition to the Napa. And actually, the Oregon estate that was number 10 became number 6. So Robert was like, wow, that's very interesting. Let's see if I can meet the guy. So he went to Oregon and he met with the owner of the estate, and actually they discussed, and he said, well, that's very unique what you can produce here. Very different soil than Burgundy. Burgundy is chalk, it's limestone. You've got different type of gravels, different types of limestones as well. But Oregon is volcano type of soil, so it's very different. And so, discussing about this, he said, "Well, that's for me something maybe interesting to invest in the future." And maybe 2 years later, this producer phoned back to Robert. He said, "Well, listen, there's 60 hectares of land to be sold. There's nothing. There's no vine tree, no vineyards. There's nothing. I mean, you have to imagine Oregon at the time. There were a handful amount of estates in 1985, 87. And he said, would you like to check? So he went back to Oregon again. He checked the land. The land was on the slopes. Beautiful orientation to the southwest, like we have here. And he said, well, okay, let's do the bet. I plant. He built the winery. The winery is the same as right now, and that was the start of that. So it was just a discovery from him, from a challenging tasting between Bordeaux and Napa, and Pinot Noir was showing so nicely from Oregon that he was so keen to check and to try something else. But also the other side, the dark side of investing in Oregon. But in 1993, there was an economic slowdown. And so when you invest in a region which was not known at all, very difficult to sell. When you plant 60 hectares at one time, and you've got such quantity arriving to be sold and not the markets, and then the economic slowdown was slowing down the sales of Burgundy as well. The company was about to bankrupt in the mid-90s. So Robert Drouhin was the person that saved the company putting all his asset to the bank, and he saved it. So that's remarkable from that man. That really was like a visionary man that could go to Chablis, could go to Oregon. And nowadays, we have 2 estates now in Oregon. The first one was established in 1987. The second one, when we bought the vineyards in 2013 in another place. It's not the same region. So the first estate is in Willamette Valley, and it's a beautiful place on the slopes. The other one is in a region named Eola-Amity Hills, and it's not on the slope, it's on top of the hill, and it produces a very different style kind of Pinot Noir that we have on the other side, but they are very complementary, I would say. The first estate, Domaine Drouhin, Oregon, is producing more like, if we compare to Burgundy, some kind of Chambol-Musigny style, very elegant tannins. And then the other one, the newest one we've got, is more producing Gevrey-Chambertin style. So very different style, very opposite, but so good. I mean, the wines we produce there are still elegant, and that's also something which is sometimes difficult to express. You know, it's quite easy to make big wines, to make monsters. You pick late, you produce little, you put them in new oak barrel for a long time, and you're going to get a beast. But it's very hard to drink a beast. You can taste the beast and see how well it was structured and stuff like that. But to have a wine which is
delicate,
with elegance,
very difficult. Elegance, very difficult.
You're not tired drinking it. Very big. You've got a lot of sugar, tannin structure, and you feel like, wow, my mouth is dry. I want some beer. I want to drink something else, sparkling water. Especially as we work a lot with restaurants around the world, you want something elegant with a nice soft attack that just gonna be nice to blend with food to make some interesting food matching, and that's also something that's not gonna kill the food of the chef. Sometimes people are drinking some so heavy stuff, so famous labels from all corners of the world, but actually the wine is killing all the aromas of the chef. So why trying to blend these wines with food? It's a wine that should be enjoyed maybe just by itself. We do wines for another very French style. It's when we think wine, we think food. It's automatic. So it's like maybe like Italian sometimes.
And do you have Chardonnay in States too?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got much more Pinot Noir, but we do one Chardonnay at Domaine Drouhin, Oregon, and we do one Chardonnay at Rose Rock. So only 2 whites, one each, and we have 2 to 3 reds minimum per estate.
And in France, what's the proportion of white and red wine?
Well, roughly it's going to be 60-40 for whites.
It's more white than red?
Well, as I told you, Chablis, Mâconnais, they are the driving volume for us, and that's a lot of quantity. As soon as you talk about Pinot Noir is not available in Chablis. It's quite not available in Mâcon. Quite not. There are, but very little, and it's not well known, and practically not. Our sales of Drouhin are about 50-50. We were talking about Mistral. Mistral is the leader now. I mean, in the past, it was number 2, number 3 compared to Expand or stuff like that. Now Mistral is probably still the number 1 in the country. And the success of your wine is also pretty much linked to the success of your importer.
And there are some French producers that are producing China wine now, no?
Yeah. No, I mean, Chinese has been planting a lot of vineyards over the past 20 years. So there's more and more vineyards arriving in the market. And I personally, I think it's good for the population, because right now, I think the average consumption of wine in China is 0.5 liters per head per year, and it's mostly because it's coming from outside. So if China is producing much more wines, it will start as education.
Yeah.
They will educate the people, and then they can move to something a little bit more precise, a little bit more complex, a little bit more. Wine is that's a lot of education. You can produce some very bad wines for your entire life if you never get a chance to explore and to be taught what to taste.
Yeah.
And that's why Brazil, for me, with the sommelier association, all the education that has been put in place across Brazil, it's for me, it's very interesting and very positive to see, because you produce wines, you produce sparkling in Brazil as well. You've got a market that will also probably be growing in the future for sure. There's a market for everything here, and if you've got educated people, the discussion is much more interesting, especially if you like it. If you like wine, if you like to drink it, if you like to share your experimentation, your taste, and blah blah blah, and there's so many stories. And besides the fact also that every year it's a new vintage, and you have something to do. And beside the new vintage, you have the aged wine, the old wines. So you have to come back to the old wines to taste them compared to what has been done recently. It's a magic. It's kind of magic for the wine when you talk about quality. Of course, if you have bad wines or low quality wines, you don't want to remember that. But if you've got the right experience, it's like many things. The first time you will always remember. And
just the market is the same for the American production and the French production.
Well, we became the biggest exporter of Oregon wines last year. We are working with more than 40 countries right now. So there's a lot of effort for the Oregon wines to export much more. So we are lucky. 90% probably of the wines produced in Oregon is drunk within the States. So there's a massive demand, and they are not looking especially for exports. But there's a market there, and we've been successful in many countries with the Oregon wine. So we continue like this. We will try to pursue this and try to get more results even more. So Oregon harvest and Burgundy harvest is between August and October. So both harvests to be done. It's very, very difficult to manage from the family side, because they try to be there all the time.
I just want to thank Mr. Christophe very much, because of there are so much knowledge, so much history, so much love in the job that it's amazing.
Well, it's an heritage somehow. We are making wines in France and in Burgundy for 2,000 years. So when you have 2,000 years of history, you've got many story to tell, and especially with Drouhin, with 140 years old history. There's many stories I could tell you, and even the family could write down some books about all the stories that happened during all that time.
Yeah, we can imagine. We have to thank you. For me, for the third time, I saw you in La Cave in Brazil, and now we are talking by
again.
Yeah, we have to say thank you for you, and
I'm dying to come back to Brazil. I love the country, the people there. you know, it's in Burgundy we are down on earth. We are farmers, so we believe a lot in people and how they are, and Brazilians are nice people. So it's always a pleasure to be with you guys and share some good moments. And you have good food. You have good restaurants. I can't lose weight when I go to. You know, the world is getting better and better, clever and clever. So it's we need to be patient sometimes. Once again, it's a different time space, but it's definitely a very interesting world. The wine industry.
And I think it's very difficult to engage the newest generations to continue your job. And I think it's very difficult because we're living in a world, as you said, that wants things so much faster, and the newer generations always want to have
and family business is very difficult.
very faster. And the business is a long-term business. It's a long-term passion.
And it's a hard work, you know. It's hard work,
yes,
and
hard work.
You hope that the new generation will have the same passion. Because when you have a passion, you don't think about to be tired. Because this is your passion, you do it because you like it. Yeah. And if you have the passion will drive you, and you're gonna make fantastic things. So it's very important that we, in this industry, we keep people passionate about what they do. And passionate drinkers, passionate distributors, passionate producers, and there's so many good things, good moments to share, and it's all about. I mean, wine, you don't drink it by yourself; you drink it because you want to share it with someone, and maybe with many people, and to enjoy that specific time. It's the intensity of the moment that makes the memories, not just a label.
Yes, definitely.
Indeed. Okay, so thank you very much for your time.
Merci beaucoup.
Grazie, Alberto.
A bientôt. Merci beaucoup.
Molto obrigado.